The message from Earth reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. On screens across thousands of worlds, the stern face of Ambassador John Miller appeared. His gray hair and tired eyes showed the weight of his decision. After 200 years of cooperation, humanity will no longer participate in galactic affairs, he said simply. We will return to our solar system. All human personnel, ships, and resources will withdraw within 30 days. In the Grand Galactic Council chamber on Alpha Centauri, silence fell as the message ended. Then came laughter, first from the Veldorian section, then spreading across the hall. "Let them go," said Counselor Zaxthar, his scaled skin gleaming under the lights. "Humans have always overestimated their importance." Only Tejra of the Colossians didn't laugh. The small blue-skinned alien looked worried as she whispered to her aide, "This is a mistake we will all regret." Back on Earth, in the North American Government Center, John Miller removed his formal jacket and sat heavily in his office chair. His deputy, Lisa Carter, brought him a cup of coffee. "Did you see their reaction?" she asked. "I saw," Miller replied. "Exactly what we expected." Lisa looked out the window at the busy streets of New Washington. "They really believe they don't need us." "They've spent 2 centuries taking our help while treating us like children," Miller said. "Now they'll learn." In the office next door, Defense Secretary George Williams was already coordinating the massive withdrawal. On his screens, thousands of dots represented human ships, stations, and personnel spread across the galaxy. "All units begin Operation Homecoming," he ordered. "Priority evacuation for isolated teams first." Across the stars, humans received the call. Engineers shut down their tools mid-project. Doctors transferred patients to alien care. Scientists packed up laboratories. Soldiers withdrew from peacekeeping missions. On the mining world Kepler-8, Supervisor Alan Fox gathered his team of 30 humans. "We're going home," he told them, looking at the massive drilling operation they had designed. "They have the blueprints. They can run it themselves now." His team looked at each other with knowing glances. The alien foreman, a tall Proximan named Vornak, approached Alan with concern. "The secondary cooling systems require your special attention every cycle," he said. "You know we haven't fully understood your modifications." Alan shrugged. "The manual explains everything. Good luck." He didn't mention that human intuition couldn't be written in any manual. On the medical station orbiting Rigel 4, Dr. Karen Walsh backed up her research one last time. 20 years of work on cross-species viral mutations. She transmitted the data to the station's main computer before wiping her personal systems. "You're actually leaving?" asked her colleague, a Centaurian named Drevnera. "What about the Orion fever outbreak?" "Your treatment was the only effective response. The formula is in the database," Karen said, packing her personal items. "And we've trained your staff." But they both knew the formula was only effective when adjusted with human intuition for each patient, something no alien species had mastered. In Earth's orbiting station, Samantha Green monitored the incoming signals. Thousands of messages from across the galaxy, most demanding humans stay at their posts, some offering better terms, a few containing threats. "Any we should respond to?" asked her assistant. "No," she answered. They had their chance to listen for 200 years. As the human ships returned, Earth's population watched with mixed feelings. Many celebrated the homecoming, tired of being taken for granted. Others worried about friends left behind or projects abandoned. 1 month later, John Miller stood before the Earth Council. All human forces had returned. The withdrawal was complete. "And now?" asked Council President Susan Cooper. Miller looked at the galaxy map on the wall, already showing small red dots where systems were reporting problems. "Now we wait," he said, "and we watch them learn just how much they needed us." 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the first real problems began to appear across the galaxy. On the busy space station at Proxima Trading Hub, the lights flickered for the 3rd time that day. "What's wrong with the power grid?" demanded Station Director Krulvan. "Fix it immediately." His engineer, a nervous Rigelian, checked the screens again. The human-designed AI that balances the power loads is showing errors we don't understand. We've tried the restart procedure in their manual, but it's not working. Krelven slammed his fist on the console. Then find someone who does understand it. There is no one, the engineer said quietly. The humans who built it are gone. Similar scenes played out across thousands of locations. On the medical world of Arcturus Prime, the automated pharmaceutical production lines began making errors in drug formulations. In the Sirius shipyards, the precision manufacturing robots started producing parts that failed quality control. Back on Earth, Samantha Green monitored the increasing flood of distress signals. She forwarded the most interesting ones to Eric Nelson at Earth Intelligence. "Look at this," she said during their weekly meeting. The Vildorians lost an entire battlecruiser when their navigation system failed during a jump. Eric nodded, adding it to his growing list. The Centaurians are reporting food shortages because their crop management systems are glitching, and the Proxima hub is having power failures. Are we responding to any of these? Samantha asked. Not yet, Eric replied. The council wants them to feel it a bit longer. In his Montana farm, retired AI architect Alan Fox received a personal message from an old colleague, a collusion engineer named Tejalo. Alan, please, the central banking system you designed is showing strange behaviors. Accounts are disappearing. Markets are crashing on 6 worlds. We need your help. Alan looked out at his peaceful fields before responding. The system was designed to receive regular updates from human operators who understand how it thinks. I warned the council about this when they insisted on using our eye. He didn't send any solutions. In the Galactic Council chamber, the mood had changed. No one was laughing now as reports of failures piled up. Councillor Drevnera of the Centaurians stood to address the emergency session. We must acknowledge that many critical systems across our civilization were designed or maintained by humans, she said. Without them, these systems are beginning to fail in ways we cannot predict or repair. Councillor Zaxthar scoffed. We don't need humans. We just need their knowledge. I propose we send a team to Earth to copy their technical databases. The collusion representative, Tejra, shook her head. You still don't understand. It's not just their knowledge, it's their way of thinking, their adaptability, their intuition. These cannot be copied into a database. Meanwhile, on a dozen human colony worlds now returned to Earth's control, life continued normally. The withdrawal had brought millions of skilled workers back to the Sol system, sparking a renaissance in art, science, and industry. In New Washington, John Miller and Lisa Carter reviewed the latest reports from across the galaxy. The Antares medical repository is corrupting, Lisa noted. Dr. Walsh's viral treatment databases are becoming inaccessible. How many lives will that cost? Miller asked quietly. Thousands, at least, Lisa replied. Should we offer help? Miller looked at the latest message from the Galactic Council, still demanding, not asking. Still not acknowledging humanity's value. Not yet, he said. They haven't learned their lesson. As night fell on Earth, the stars seemed different to those who watched them. For centuries, those stars had represented humanity's expansion and contribution to a greater galactic civilization. Now they represented something else, a universe slowly realizing what it had lost when humans walked away. 1 year into humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy faced true crisis. The Proxima trading network, which connected over 300 star systems, completely collapsed. Ships arrived at wrong destinations. Cargo vanished. Supply chains broke down. On the colony world of New Rigel, Governor Xenlo faced an angry crowd outside the government building. Where is our food? They shouted. Our children are hungry. Governor Xenlo had no answers. The world depended on imported food, and no supply ships had arrived in weeks. In his office, he stared at the emergency stores report. 3 weeks of food remained. Send another message to Earth, he told his aide. Tell them we will pay any price. Across the galaxy, 47 worlds faced similar food shortages. 17 had already reported deaths from starvation. In Earth's monitoring center, Paul Rivera watched the reports come in. Before the withdrawal, he had been logistics officer for the Proxima trading network. "I told them this would happen," he said to Eric Nelson. "The network routing system needed human oversight. The algorithms couldn't handle unexpected variables without our adjustments." Eric nodded grimly. "The casualty reports are getting worse. The Council is still refusing to formally ask for our help, but individual worlds are begging now." In the Earth Council chamber, a heated debate took place. Ben Hudson, representing the North American zone, stood to speak. "We've made our point," he argued. "Worlds are suffering. People are dying. We should offer humanitarian aid, at least to the worst affected systems." John Miller shook his head. "If we step in now, nothing changes. The Council will take our help, solve the immediate crisis, then go back to treating us as second class. The lesson must be complete." The vote was close, but Miller's position won. Earth would maintain the withdrawal, though they would allow individual humans to provide remote consultation in extreme cases. Meanwhile, the Antares Medical Repository, the galaxy's largest database of medical treatments, continued to degrade. Corruption spread through its systems, making critical information inaccessible. Dr. Karen Walsh, who had helped build the repository, received hundreds of desperate messages daily. From her home in Seattle, she provided what help she could remotely, but the problems were too vast. "Another children's hospital has lost access to treatment protocols," she told her husband that evening. 30 children with Rigelian fever. Without the correct treatment, half will die. "Can you help?" he asked. She shook her head. "The database needs physical repair by someone who understands its architecture. Remote work isn't enough." In the Galactic Council, desperation finally overcame pride. Councillor Drevnera proposed a formal request for human assistance. "We must acknowledge reality," she said. "Critical systems throughout the galaxy are failing. Millions have died. Billions more will suffer if we don't act. We need the humans back." Councillor Zach Thar, once the loudest voice against humans, remained silent. His homeworld had lost power to its main cities 3 days earlier when the planetary grid failed. The Council voted unanimously to send a delegation to Earth. In New Washington, Lisa Carter brought the news to John Miller. "They're finally coming to ask for help," she said. "A delegation of 12 high-ranking officials. They'll arrive next week." Miller nodded. "Have we prepared our terms?" "Yes. Full Council membership, equal access to all technologies, reparations for past treatment, and official recognition of humanity's essential role in galactic affairs." Miller looked out at the city. "Let's see how desperate they really are." That night, as the delegation's ship began its journey to Earth, emergency calls continued to flood in from across the stars. Systems that humans had built, maintained, or simply understood were failing everywhere. And the galaxy was finally learning just what it had lost when humans walked away. The alien delegation arrived at Earth's orbital station on a ship showing signs of poor maintenance. Once gleaming hull plates were dull. Engine ports flickered unevenly. The ship limped into the docking bay like a wounded animal. Susan Cooper, Earth's newly appointed Foreign Secretary, watched from the observation deck. "They look desperate," she said to John Miller. "Good," Miller replied. "They should be." The delegation consisted of 12 representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy. Leading them was High Elder Mokhtar of the Draconians, his usual proud bearing now diminished by worry. As they entered the meeting room, Maria Rodriguez, head of station security, watched them closely through monitoring systems. "Scanning complete," she reported to Miller. "No weapons. No hidden technology. Just 12 very nervous aliens." The meeting began formally. Susan Cooper welcomed the delegation to Earth space. Her words were polite but cool. "We understand you wish to discuss humanity's potential return to galactic affairs," she said. High Elder Mokhtar nodded. The situation has become difficult without human assistance. Difficult? Miller interrupted. We've recorded over 2 million deaths from food shortages, medical system failures, and transport accidents in the past year. Would you call that merely difficult? The elder lowered his gaze. Catastrophic would be more accurate. We need your help. Tim Baker, Earth's economic advisor, displayed a series of charts on the room's main screen. They showed the collapse of interstellar trade, cascading system failures, and rising death tolls. These are the consequences of undervaluing humanity's contribution, Baker said. Now let's discuss the price of our return. Cooper presented Earth's terms: permanent seats on the Galactic Council with full voting rights, unrestricted access to all technological repositories, formal reparations for centuries of exploitation, and official recognition of humanity's essential role in galactic civilization. The delegation members looked at each other in shock. Councillor Zaxthar, once humanity's most vocal critic, spoke up. These demands are excessive. You're taking advantage of a temporary crisis. Miller laughed without humor. Temporary. Your civilizations are collapsing. Without human innovation and maintenance, your critical systems will continue to fail. This isn't temporary, it's terminal. From her monitoring station, Maria Rodriguez watched the aliens' body language change as Miller spoke. Their confidence crumbled visibly. They know he's right, she told her deputy. They just can't admit it yet. Back in the meeting room, one of the younger delegates, a Centaurian named Kelvor, broke protocol. We should accept their terms, he said urgently. Every day we delay, thousands more die. My homeworld lost its atmospheric processors yesterday. Millions will die if they aren't restored soon. High Elder Mokhtar silenced him with a gesture. We need time to consider Earth's proposal. We will return to our ship and consult with the Council. As the delegation departed, Susan Cooper and John Miller watched them go. They'll try to find another solution, Cooper said. Their pride won't let them accept our terms. Let them try, Miller replied. It won't work. That evening, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss the meeting. Do you think they'll agree? Asked Ben Hudson, still advocating for humanitarian aid. Eventually, said Miller. But first, they'll try something desperate. He was right. As Earth slept, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. On their agenda, the Autonomy Initiative, a massive project to develop technology that could function without human involvement. We will solve this ourselves, declared Councillor Zaxthar. We don't need humans, we just need to replicate what makes them valuable. Little did they know that this attempt would only make things worse, much worse. On Earth, Alan Fox smiled as he read the leaked council minutes. They still don't understand, he told his wife. You can't program human intuition. News of the Autonomy Initiative spread quickly. The Galactic Council poured enormous resources into the project, bringing together the brightest non-human minds in the galaxy. Their goal: create systems that could function without human involvement. On Earth, Daniel White studied the reports with growing concern. Once the lead engineer for interstellar communication systems, he now taught at MIT. They're making a fundamental mistake, he told his students, displaying the leaked initiative plans. They're trying to program solutions for all possible problems. But isn't that impossible? Asked a student. Daniel nodded. Exactly. Human engineering works because we adapt and improvise. We don't just follow protocols. We create new ones when needed. In orbit around Centauri Prime, the initiative's first test seemed promising. A new power management system, designed without human input, successfully regulated the planet's energy grid for 3 full days. Council Technarch Vorntech proclaimed victory. This proves we can replace human involvement with proper programming, he announced to the galaxy. His celebration was premature. On day 4, when an unexpected solar flare hit the system, the rigid programming failed to adapt. Cascading power failures darkened half the planet. Nancy Harris, Earth's intelligence analyst, watched the situation from her monitoring station in Geneva. "They're trying the same approach everywhere," she reported to Susan Cooper. "Rigid programming, no flexibility, no creativity. How long until they admit failure?" Cooper asked. Nancy studied her screens. "The failures are accelerating. Their systems can handle normal operations but collapse under unexpected conditions." Military Commander Jack Peterson joined the meeting virtually. "We should be concerned," he said. "If they somehow succeed, our leverage disappears." "They won't succeed," Daniel White said confidently. "The universe is too unpredictable for their approach." Across the galaxy, the initiative's early promise quickly faded. On mining world Kepler-8, new automated systems failed to detect a dangerous methane buildup, causing an explosion that killed hundreds. On Rigel Medical Station, diagnostic computers missed unusual disease patterns, allowing an epidemic to spread. Each failure followed the same pattern. The systems worked under normal conditions but couldn't handle unexpected variables. After 2 months of mounting disasters, a frustrated counselor, Zach Thar, confronted Technarch Vorn Tech during an emergency session. "Your initiative is making things worse," he shouted, his scales flushed with anger. "We've lost more lives to your failed systems than to the original failures." Vorn Tech defended his work. "We need more time. More resources. We're getting closer." "Closer to what?" "Total collapse," asked Counselor Drevnera. "We should accept the humans' terms before it's too late." The council remained deadlocked. Half wanted to continue the initiative, believing success was just around the corner. The other half wanted to surrender to humanity's demands. On Earth, Lisa Carter brought the latest reports to John Miller. "The initiative is failing exactly as we predicted," she said. "But the council is still divided." Miller nodded. "They need one more push. One disaster too big to ignore." That disaster was already brewing. In the Sirius system, home to the galaxy's largest antimatter production facility, the new automated containment systems were showing subtle anomalies. Daniel White noticed the pattern in the data. "This is catastrophic," he told Earth's leadership. "If those containment fields fail, the radiation will make dozens of systems uninhabitable." "Should we warn them?" asked Ben Hudson, still the voice of compassion. "They wouldn't listen," Miller said. "They need to see the consequence of their pride." Nancy Harris continued monitoring the deteriorating situation at Sirius. "Containment failure estimated in 3 weeks," she reported. Miller looked at the galactic map, imagining the billions of lives in the path of potential radiation. "Maybe now they'll understand," he said quietly. "Humans don't just maintain their technology. We understand it in ways they never will." The Sirius containment field's warning systems flashed red across every monitoring station in the sector. The antimatter containment was failing faster than predicted. Radiation leaks had already forced the evacuation of 3 nearby stations. In an emergency session, the Galactic Council faced the truth they have been avoiding for years. If the main containment fails completely, the radiation will make 12 star systems uninhabitable, reported a shaking Centaurian scientist. "We estimate 3 billion will die." Counselor Zach Thar, once humanity's strongest critic, now stood before his peers, his proud posture gone. "We have tried everything," he admitted. "Our best engineers cannot solve this. The containment system was designed by humans. Only they can save it." He took a deep breath. "I move that we accept all of Earth's terms, immediately and without condition." The vote was unanimous. On Earth, Susan Cooper received the Council's message with grim satisfaction. "They've accepted everything," she told John Miller. "Full Council membership, technology access, reparations, formal recognition of our importance. They're even offering more." Miller looked at the data on the Sirius situation. "How long until total containment failure?" 5 days at most," Cooper replied. "We need to send a team now," Miller said. "Even for us, this will be difficult to fix." Within hours, Earth dispatched its best engineers on the fastest available ship. Leading the team was Frank Collins, who had helped design the original containment system 20 years earlier. As their ship raced toward Sirius, Frank studied the system reports. "The field is destabilizing in a pattern I've never seen," he told his team. "We'll need to improvise." Steve Russell, the pilot, pushed the ship beyond safe limits. 3 billion lives, he muttered. No pressure. They arrived with barely 72 hours remaining before complete failure. The situation was worse than expected. The antimatter containment was fluctuating wildly, with radiation already leaking into surrounding space. Frank's team worked nonstop, trying solution after solution as the alien engineers watched in amazement. "Why are they changing their approach so often?" asked a confused Regellian observer. "Because they're seeing what works and what doesn't," replied Linda Harrison, Earth's negotiator who had accompanied the team. "They're adapting in real time." After 48 hours of desperate work, Frank discovered the core problem. The automated systems installed by the Autonomy Initiative had created an unpredictable feedback loop in the containment field. "We can't fix it completely," he told his exhausted team. "But we can stabilize it long enough to safely move the antimatter to another facility." They worked through another night, implementing Frank's plan. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't by the book. It was pure human improvisation, using parts from their own ship, rerouting systems in ways the designers never intended, writing new code on the fly. "It's holding," Steve reported as the field stabilized. Radiation levels dropping. Supreme Counselor Ethnar, who had come to witness the human work, approached Frank as the immediate danger passed. "How did you know this would work?" he asked. There was nothing in any manual about this solution. Frank wiped sweat from his face. "That's the point. We don't just follow manuals. We write them. And when they don't work, we ignore them and try something new." On their ship returning to Earth, Linda Harrison received the final agreement from the Galactic Council. The Treaty of Terra, it was called. It recognized humanity's unique and essential role in galactic civilization. Was it worth it? Steve asked her, thinking of the lives lost during humanity's absence. Linda looked at the treaty. "These terms will protect humanity forever. Future generations won't face the discrimination we did." Back on Earth, a solemn John Miller addressed the Earth Council. "The crisis is contained, though significant damage occurred. The treaty has been signed. We return to the stars not as servants, but as equals." Susan Cooper nodded. "And now the real work begins, rebuilding what was broken." 1 year after the Sirius crisis, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Human representatives now sat at the main table, their voices equal to any other species. Michelle Thompson, appointed as the first human High Counselor, stood to address the assembly. "Today marks the anniversary of the Treaty of Terra," she said. "In 1 year, we have helped rebuild much of what was lost. But the work continues." The chamber, once filled with whispers against humanity, now listened with respect. Even Counselor Zach Thar, who had once led the anti-human faction, nodded in agreement. Across the galaxy, human experts had returned to critical positions. On the rebuilt Proxima Trading Hub, human engineers maintained the network systems. In the Antares Medical Repository, Dr. Karen Walsh led a team restoring corrupted medical data. On dozens of worlds that had faced starvation, human agricultural specialists helped rebuild food production. Robert Adams, head of the new Department of Interspecies Relations, traveled constantly between worlds. Today he met with Elder Tejrat of the Collusions, who had warned about humanity's departure from the beginning. "You were right all along," Adams said as they walked through a garden on Kalos Prime. Tejrat's blue skin wrinkled in a smile. "I lived among humans for 20 years. I knew what would happen if you left." "Why didn't the others see it?" Adams asked. "Pride," she said simply. They could not admit they depended on a species they considered less advanced. On Earth, John Miller watched the council session from his retirement home in Colorado. Lisa Carter sat beside him. "Did you know it would work out this way?" she asked. Miller looked at the mountains outside his window. I hoped. I never wanted anyone to suffer. But they had to learn. Some say the price was too high, Lisa said. Millions died during our absence. And billions would have suffered forever if we had stayed as second-class citizens, Miller replied. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the most important. In space, a new generation of human engineers worked alongside alien apprentices. Julia Bennett, just 25 years old, led a team rebuilding the navigation beacons in the Orion sector. The key is adaptability, she explained to her Rigelian assistant. Never assume the system will work exactly as designed. Always be ready to improvise. The young Rigelian nodded eagerly. This is what we could not understand before. We thought perfect systems removed the need for adaptability. Julia smiled. The universe is too complex for perfect systems. That's why we humans are valuable. We expect the unexpected. At the Academy on Centauri Prime, alien children now studied the Great Silence, the years when humans walked away. Their teacher, a draconian named Krelinor, explained the lesson. Before the silence, the galaxy thought technology was what mattered most. After the silence, we learned that the minds behind the technology matter more. Humans bring a unique perspective. They see possibilities where we see only problems. Back in the council chamber, Michelle Thompson concluded her address by presenting a new galactic constitution. This document recognizes the essential contributions of all species, she said. No longer will we judge advancement by technology alone, but by the diverse thinking each species brings to our shared civilization. The vote to adopt the Constitution was unanimous. That evening, as celebrations took place across the galaxy, John Miller received a message from Counselor Zach Thar, once his greatest opponent. I was wrong about humans, the message read. Your species does not dominate through force or technology, but through something more powerful, the ability to think differently. The galaxy is better with humans in it. Miller smiled as he closed the message. The day humans walked away had indeed come at a terrible price. But the universe had learned a lesson it would never forget, that true advancement comes not from perfect systems, but from minds that can imagine beyond them. And humanity had finally found its rightful place among the stars, not as servants or tools, but as essential partners in the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known.